Welcome to a Prevent Connect podcast, where we explore the prevention of violence against women. This is a project of the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
Hello, and welcome to another Prevent Connect podcast, where we highlight new research, emerging trends, and exciting efforts in sexual and domestic violence prevention. I'm Ashley Klein-Jimenez, and today I'm joined by my co-host and colleague, Tori Vandelin. So in August, Prevent Connect attended the annual RPE leadership meeting that was held prior to the National Sexual Assault Conference in Anaheim, California, and was hosted by the National Sexual Violence Resource Center. During one of the roundtable breakout discussions, we had a chance to hear from Angelica Wind, the Executive Director of Our Voice, a sexual violence crisis intervention and prevention agency in Asheville, North Carolina. Like several other North Carolina rape crisis centers, Our Voice is working with local bars and alcohol selling establishments to prevent sexual assault. And Angelica's passion for this work is so evident, so we are really excited to welcome her here today. Angelica, I know you're also joined by one of your colleagues at Our Voice, Danny Lee. So I want to thank you, Angelica and Danny, for agreeing to come on to our podcast and to share about the work Our Voice is doing. How are you both today?
We are doing great, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Wonderful. So happy to be here with you.
I'd love to start off with having you both tell us a little bit more about yourselves and how long you've been doing this work.
I am the Executive Director of Our Voice, and thank you so much. You so succinctly described what we do. And I've been doing anti-gender-based violence work on a professional level for about 10 years, on a personal level for about 35 years.
I'm a case manager here, client services coordinator at Our Voice. I've worked for Our Voice about 5 years. I started as a volunteer coordinator. Before that, I was a volunteer and advocate for survivors. And in my role now, I do a lot of direct services, but also with the Bar Outreach Project. That's a passion project of mine that I've been involved with nearly since the beginning, right? Yeah.
So for those of us like myself who are not very familiar with North Carolina, can you describe Asheville? What is it like?
So Asheville is located in the western North Carolina mountains. We're probably one of the largest cities in western North Carolina. Asheville is a tourist area. It is considered urban. We are a tourist hub, and we also have universities. We have a culture that is really conducive to folks who want to come here and have a more laid-back, relaxed atmosphere. In fact, one of the things that we've experienced in the last 10 years or so is a dramatic increase in population just because we've been voted as one of the happiest cities in the world. So it's a great area to raise families and also to enjoy the mountains.
But I would say that we're mostly tourist-driven. The restaurant industry is really big, lots of hotels, and around the Beer City, Asheville designation that we've gotten, there's quite a large alcohol culture here. So it's really more of a tourist town than a college town. We do have universities, but that's not our main traffic.
The culture around alcohol, what do you think are the implications for sexual violence prevention given that culture?
As a designation for the breweries and the alcohol that we have, it made sense that we would partner with some of those businesses to try to get ahead of the issue. As an agency, we have our fair share of survivors who have been impacted by drug-facilitated sexual assault, and we wanted to try to address it through a partnership with businesses. It's a way of educating the customers of those businesses, the tourists that come to our town, really putting the message out there that this is something that we take seriously, but also that they can enjoy a culture of consent and also, have fun and enjoy Asheville at the same time.
That's great. So I want to bring in my co-host, Tori.
Yeah, thank you both so much for joining us today. What made Our Voice decide this was the work you all needed to do?
So this has been a labor of love. We have seen an increase in drug-facilitated sexual assault reports, the number one drug being alcohol. What we found is by the time that survivors were going to the hospital to get a forensic kit, it had already flushed out of their system. And so what we found was that we needed to be more proactive around the prevention part of it and engaging with bar staff, but also with the public around what DFSA was, what did it look like, and how we could best respond and prevent it. So that's what all of this work that we were doing culminated in what we now currently have, which is our bar outreach project.
So what are the goals of the bar outreach project?
Well, it's kind of like a two-pronged thing. So we do a large campaign of just getting the message out there. We'll put our flyers up in the bathrooms and on message boards, community boards, and the businesses that serve alcohol, and we get clients that way. It's an educational thing for the community and for people who are visiting here. But then also we offer bar staff training, and in that bar staff training, we are promoting an environment of safety, and in particular, we're talking about drug-facilitated sexual assault and getting into some preventative strategies. We're going over reporting options and offering local resources. So we feel like that's going to have an impact on changing culture in Asheville. That's the hope.
We also are able to engage with bar staff and owners on bystander intervention strategies that they can employ. In essence, some of the bystander intervention strategies that we teach are similar to some that they may use as it relates to drinking and driving, but the difference is that we are educating staff and owners to look at this work through the lens of anti-sexual harassment and sexual violence strategies.
Another thing that we've really taken on to address is that sometimes there are unhealthy behaviors that are happening within the culture of bar staff. And so one thing that we really address is that they need to be able to trust each other. They need to have a safe way to report abuse within the staff, and they need to communicate and have each other's backs. And it has led to some policy changes within certain establishments.
I really love how you highlighted that you're meeting the bar staff where they're at and building on skills that they already have for preventing drinking and driving. So how can we apply those same skills with maybe some different cues for preventing sexual harassment and sexual violence? So I think that's really great that you highlighted that you're meeting them where they're at with their current knowledge and skills.
Is there one piece of advice from lessons that you all have learned that you would give to someone who is looking to partner with bars in their communities?
We actually created a curriculum as a result of all these lessons learned because we felt that what we are currently doing is able to be replicated in other communities. But the piece of it is really getting to learn your community and finding where your allies are. Find one allied bar. And the way we approached it was we reached out to a particular bar and we asked them if they could host a bar outreach training at their bar. And then we asked them if they could invite fellow bar owners and bar staff. And it goes to that peer-on-peer prevention model, right, that you're much more effective when the messaging is coming from a peer. And so by having that, we were able to make deeper inroads, and then we were able to ask the same out of the second bar.
We found that our alcohol serving establishments in this area want to partner because they want their customers to be safe. In some cases, they can take that on as part of their image, that they're socially conscious and that they're looking out for their customers. And I think it's a great thing. And you can start where you drink. If you drink at a bar, talk to the management there and just talk to them about this idea.
So last question, and Angelica, you mentioned that you all have a curriculum. Which I think, for folks who are listening, we absolutely will be interested in knowing if that is something that can be found online, at least more information about it. So besides the curriculum, or along with the curriculum, I should say, are there any other resources that have been especially helpful to you all over the time that you've been doing this bar outreach work?
I think what has been helpful, local, and this is one of the beautiful things about creating relationships with bars, is that as we've continued to evolve with our curriculum, because we believe that all curriculum should evolve to the current times, is that as a result of this wonderful partnership that we've had with the bars, is that we use them as a resource as well. Like they were the ones that informed us in terms of what they felt was an appropriate length to be more successful at getting into businesses, in the sense that they would offer feedback and say, this is a great training, and my suggestion would be like reduce it to an hour and a half, have it before 11 o'clock, have coffee, different things like that. So we, again, used our local community as a resource to inform us of what would be more effective in our communities. And we do have a curriculum that people can purchase or read up more on our website at ourvoicenc.org, ourvoicenc.org, which is helpful. But part of it, and it is something that could be replicated in all communities. And but one of the things that I would certainly suggest to folks to use as a resource is to partner with the folks that they're going to be reaching out to, right? Who best is poised to tell what is needed in those communities than the communities that are impacted by it, right? And so who is best poised to serve as a resource to us than the bars? Or also here in North Carolina, we have what we call the Alcohol Beverage Control Agency. They have been a great resource to us as well, in the sense that they've gotten us in front of an audience of folks that are training to sell alcohol and so forth. And so that's another opportunity to use a local resource for us. But certainly look at who's in your community, and in all likelihood that they are able to serve as a resource.
Yeah, and that feedback from the bars here is how we implemented that whole piece about talking about, within the bar staff themselves about potential abuses of power or, lack of consent within that aspect. Because when we started this project, we weren't really talking about that. We were just talking about patrons, keeping customers safe. And then it was through that feedback in our trainings that they were telling us about, like, hey, there's a bartender who's, taking advantage of customers, who's taken advantage of other staff members. That we heard that enough times and we implemented that. So we've been flexible with our curriculum. We try to keep it fresh. We update it. And we've learned as we've done trainings to other crisis agencies and other universities outside of Asheville that there are many different cultures, many different dynamics that play in different places, and we try to adapt to those and have those conversations about how this can work for those communities that aren't like Asheville, because there are very different places out there. So that's one thing that we've been doing with this is trying to keep it flexible as well.
Well, I think that your response to my question about resources, to look at bars and your community as a resource, it really highlights the fact that you all seem to have moved from partnership to like a really authentic collaboration. And I think that is probably where so much of your success has come from. So I think, again, there's been so much wisdom throughout this conversation that you've shared, and I think that's just one more little gem that is sticking out for me as a piece that is really important for all of us when we're thinking about partnering with any other sector, whether it's bars and alcohol serving establishments or other business communities or other movements. So thank you so much for that. I want to just check in with my co-host, Tori, again, and see, Tori, if you have any follow-up thoughts or questions.
Yeah, so thank you all so much for taking the time to come on the podcast and share the amazing work you all have been able to do with creating a culture of safety within Asheville and within the network of bars there. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm super excited to share this information with our listeners and be able to share all of the resources, both the advice that you have with creating that community of care in someone's own local community, and anything that they can glean from the curriculum that you all have been so successful with in Asheville.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Prevent Connect podcast. Prevent Connect is a project of the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault, with funding from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The views presented on Prevent Connect are not necessarily the views of the United States government, the CDC, or CalCASA. To learn more about Prevent Connect, visit www.preventconnect.org. For more information about CalCASA's mission, or to show your support, visit calcasa.org. That's CALCASA.org.